Welcome again in another exciting tutorial with me, Romi Fauzi. In this platformer with Playmaker tutorial series, this is the part 8, and we are going to cover how to create an enemy. So let's start to do that. First, I'm going to create a new empty game object, and I'm going to call this empty game object enemy. And then under my character folder, I have this Boxman mechanism FBX file. I'm going to drag this as a child of our new empty game object enemy. And then I'm going to reset the value of the enemy for the transformation. And then I'm going also to move our character, the Boxman mechanism, to minus 0.85. Okay, and then let's move our enemy here. So I'm going to put the enemy over here, and then I'm going to add a capsule collider to our enemy game object, not the child one, and I'm going to set the value. I've remembered the value is minus 0.32, and for the radius is also 0.22, sorry, and for the height is around 1.25. Okay, so I'm going to make the screen bigger for setting up, and then I'm going to change the rotation to minus 90. Okay, so we already set up our enemy. Let's go to the Playmaker editor, the FSM editor, and then right click and create a new FSM for this enemy game object. I'm going to change the FSM name to enemy movement. Okay, so press enter, and then here I'm going to create a couple of variables that we are going to use to move our enemy. First of all, we're going to need the walk speed, and the type is float. And then I'm going to create another variable, a factor 3 types, and I'm going to call this one walk dir, or a sort of walk direction. Okay, so let's give it a new state, a new action under the first state. I'm going to give it a set velocity, and I'm going to change the x value to our walk speed parameter, and change the space to world. Make sure check every frame. Okay, here the set velocity action gave us a warning that game object requires a rigid body component, so let's give him a rigid body component. And just like our player object, we going to need to freeze a couple constraints here, so let's us do that. On the position, let us freeze the z axis, and for the rotation, let us freeze the x rotation and the z rotation, so the character can turn around or along the y axis. Okay, and then I'm going to also change our material for the character. So I've created a new material called bad guys, and I've already have a textures, but actually we don't need this, so I'm going to remove this, set it to none, and then I'm going to change the character to maybe around a bit grayish, and I'm going to drag this to our pan. And because the character consists of different objects, so I have to assign this one by one to the thigh and to also the torso, and I'm going to assign this to the body and to the arm, upper arm, and also to the forearm. But I'm going to leave the hand, the head, and the shoes as is. So we have a character that looks different than our player. And then let's do the movement. So we already set the rigid body, so there is no warning anymore for under our set velocity. Let us add a set vector xyz. So we are going to create a new vector variable, and feed it to our walk direction parameter variables, and I'm going to give it a x value of walk speed and set it also to every frame. I'm going to minimize this action, and then I'm going to add another smooth look at direction. I'm going to put this below the set vector xyz, and for the target direction I'm going to use that walk direction vector that we have created with this set of action, and I'm going to change the up vector to 1 on the y-axis by disabling this use variable. And then maybe for the speed of the rotation I'm going to increase the amount to 10. So I think that is good. Okay, let us see. I forgot that we have to assign a value to our walk speed, so I'm going to change this value to 2. Okay, so let us see. Okay, it's working, but he doesn't know when he he leaves the ground, so he falls. Now we need to create some sort of a simple AI, so he will know when the enemy is standing on the edge, he will turn around, change direction. Okay, let's do that. We are going to need to create a couple empty object, and for this empty object I'm going to change its name to waypoint, and then I'm going to add a box collider game object component, and I'm going to change this view to 2D. So let's set the collider here. I'm going to reset the Z position, and then I'm going to scale the x-axis down maybe to around 0.4, and I'm going to put this on the edge, and I'm going to push the collider upwards a bit so it extends from the ground, so our raycast will able to detect this game object. And then I'm going to set this as a trigger. Okay, so for the layer I'm going to change the layer of the waypoint to a waypoint. If you don't have this layer, simply click add layer and then type a new layer to it, and then reselect the waypoint object and change the layer to waypoint. So there you go. And for the enemy I'm going to change the layer to enemy, and I'm going to also affect the children as well. So yes, click yes, change children. Okay, let us continue. This is the one of the waypoint, and I'm going to use an icon to show that we have a waypoint here, and then I'm going to duplicate this waypoint, and then I'm going to move the waypoint to the other side of the ground. So basically I'm going to create a waypoint for every the ground we have on the edge, so the enemy will know that he is approaching the edge. And then I think that will be all, but for now I'm going to test only on this ground. Okay, so choose the enemy again, go to our state and change the state name to movement. Okay, and then I'm going to create a new raycast action, and this is for raycast ground. So change the direction by disabling use variable, and then set the Z value to 1, so it always raycast the forwards of the enemy game object, the transform forwards. Make sure the space set to self, and then the distance to perhaps around 1.5, and for the y-axis I'm going to set it to the -1. Okay, so I'm going to check the debug option, and then let's see how the raycast is. As you can see, it project a line, raycast line to the ground here. So okay, and then I'm going to create a new event, change direction, and then I'm going to add the transition to our state here, change direction, and upon hit event I'm going to go to change direction. So if the raycast hit this waypoint, it will change the direction of the enemy. So create a new state for the enemy and change its name to change there. Okay, I'm going to add a float multiply here, and then choose our walk speed variable, multiply it by -1. Okay, I'm going to connect the change direction transition to our change there, and then under change there I'm going to add a finish transition, and then I'm going to copy this state here by pressing Ctrl C, and then I'm going to paste the state here, but I'm not going to replace the start state, so I will choose no here. And this is for turning. I'm going to remove our raycast action and change it to add a wait action. I'm going to drag this to the lower to the bottom of the states, and then here I'm going to delete the transition and add a finish transition. So change the time of the wait to 0.5, and for the finish event choose finish. Okay, so we are going to connect the change there state to our turning state, and then I'm going to connect the turning state back to movement state. So why we have to give it another state like this turning here is actually the same as our movement, because when we are raycasting, we are going to raycast to the waypoint, right? And then if it's hit an object, or if it's happening to hit something, it will go to this state and it will change the walk speed to -1. As soon as the walk speed is inverted, it will go back to here and it will move back again. But when the character is turning using this smooth look at direction, it will not turning right away, so the raycast ground will detect the waypoint right away, so it will create some sort of infinite loop. So we will have to give this another state to make sure that the turning happens after, and then after the turnings is happen nicely, then we go back to our movement. Okay, so I think another thing for our raycast, I'm going to add a layer mask by inserting a value to our layer mask 1, and I'm going to choose waypoint as the layer mask. So it will only when the character hit an object with a layer of waypoint. So let us save the scene and let's try it. Okay, it's moving nicely and it is pushing our character, as you can see, and when our character falls, it goes back because the raycast detect this waypoint over here. Okay, so we are going to add another raycast for detecting if there is an object in front of him. So on this raycast, I'm going to change the direction on the z-axis to 1 and set the distance to around 0.7. And upon hit event, I'm going to also go to our change direction transition. But for this layer mask, we are going to set the layer mask to default, because all of the things on our scene, on our environment, has default layer. and the player, make sure the player layer is set to player, and also change the children, and our enemy set to enemy, also change the children. And this is waypoint. So we are using 4 layers: player, enemy, waypoint, and default. And for the other raycast, we are going it is safe to use the default layer, because we are raycasting forward, so it will only hit from the enemy middle point. When it hits something, it will turn. Okay, so let's try this, and I'm going to also check the debug checkbox. I'm going to save the scene, and let's play this. As you can see, the enemy is turning. Oh, sorry. And we can shoot him, but we don't have set the health yet. Okay, let's do our health system. So I'm going to change our window size here, so we can navigate better. And then under our enemy object, let's add a new FSM, and I'm going to change its name to enemy health. So here I'm going to add a new variable, a float variable or an integer, and change its name to health. So okay, first of all, I'm going to add a event for hit, for go from this state to another state that will subtract our health. So I'm going to add this transition hit and go to the state here, and make sure that this hit event is a global event, so it can be accessed from another FSM. And on the second state, I want to change its name to subtract health, add a finish transition, and then go back to our first state. Under our subtract health, I'm going to use a integer operator, or I'm going to use integer add. I'm going to remove this one, and I'm going to use the health variable and add this variable with perhaps -1, and change its initial value to maybe 3. Okay, so I think this is all for now. I'm going to create a game over state, or not game over, I'm sorry, but the enemy die. So I'm going to create a new variable, enemy die. We don't need this enemy die variable. I'm going to use a integer compare. So let us compare our integer. If health is equal then 0, then we are going to kill our enemy. So I'm going to create a new state, give it a name of enemy die here, and I'm going to create a new event called kill enemy. Add the kill enemy transition to our to the first state, and I'm going to connect the kill enemy to our enemy die here. So if equal or less than, I'm going to change both of the condition to kill enemy, and make sure every frame checked. So upon enemy die, I want to disable the capsule collider here, so it will fall to the ground. Let us do that. Set property by dragging the capsule collider to our state here, and then I'm going to choose the enabled property, and I'm going to uncheck this, as you can see here. So okay, I'm going to save the scene here. Okay, for our enemy object, I'm going to give him a enemy as the tag also, so we can send an event from our character. Okay, let us save the scene. Okay, next go to our player here, and we have a weapon system. Upon firing, it will go to our second state. This is already we already set up this on our last session, last episode here. Okay, so under our weapon, I'm going to add a raycast, and I'm going to show our debug option here, so we can show how long is the length of our raycast, and change the distance to maybe around 4. I'm not sure, around 4 or 3. Let's try it out first. Change our direction to Z, the Z axis to 1. So okay, let's try it. There you go. This is our gun line here, as you can see. I think this is quite long. Okay, so for our raycast, it will store the object that hit by this raycast. So let us create another variable with a game object type, and this is a ray hit object. Under our raycast action, I'm going to store the hit object to our newly created variable ray hit object, and I'm going to compare the value of our that object that's stored in that variable. So I'm going to use a game compare tag, game object compare tag. I'm going to feed the ray hit object here and make sure the tag is enemy. If it's true, I'm going to send to another state here. If it's false, I'm going to go to the finish, state. Make sure this check every frame, and let us create a new state here for subtracting our enemy health. So I'm going to create a new event, hit enemy, and add that event to our new transition under the second state here, hit enemy, and connect the hit enemy to our last state here. Okay, so we are going to send an event, but we are going to choose game object FSM, and we are going to specify game object under the game object here, use variable, and use our ray hit object. For the FSM name, we are going to make sure we are just going to copy our FSM name here. So I'm going to copy under the enemy, the FSM enemy health here. Copy the string or the name, and go to our character, and then I'm going to paste the name here under FSM name, and I'm going to send the event. I think the name is subtract something. I don't know, have I already set? Okay, let's check our enemy. I forgot the name. So hit, okay, the name was hit. That goes to our subtract health here. So go back to our character and choose hit. Where is it? Okay. This one. Okay, after hit, it will go back to it will go straight to our finish transition and go back to this fire state. Okay, I'm going to save the scene and I'm crossing my finger. Let's hope this works. Okay, so I'm going to select our enemy here and open the variable, and I'm going to highlight the health so we can see its value here when we are testing. Sorry. Okay, so sorry, I have to go to this window here by pressing middle button so it activate again, and then I'm going to shoot the enemy. Okay, so that's, as you can see, it doesn't hit the enemy because the ray casts are hitting our box object. So let's try it here. Okay, something's wrong, I think. Didn't happen. So okay, let's check it, what's wrong. Okay, it was a honest mistake. It's a stupid mistake. I forgot to set our character here. So we already said that if ray hit object is not the enemy, we are going back to our finish. But if it's true, we haven't set that it should go to the last state here. So go back to the second state. I'm going to add a true event here, and let's try it again. So I'm going to choose the enemy so we can see the health of the enemy, and I'm going to go to our window here, and I'm going to jump here, and let's shoot our enemy. As you can see, the integer value subtracted to 1, and if it's 0 it will fall down. So we have killed our enemy. Actually, in the enemy die state, you can change the enemy die event, maybe play the death animation or instantiate an explosion particle, but I'm going to leave it like this, so go ahead, use your imagination. Okay, now let's set up the enemy animation. So let's create a new animator for our enemy here. We already have an animator, of course, because it is a mechanism object. And then let us create a new controller for the enemy. I've already created a state for the enemy, but I don't think that is the enemy. Okay, sorry. Let us create a new animator controller. So create, right click here under our project, under character animation. You can put it anywhere else if you want to. Just create animator controller. I'm going to change its name to enemy, and we only have walking animation. I think we only need walking animation, so I'm going to create a new state and change this animation to run. I think it's run. Yeah, I think we're going to use this one. And I'm going to create a new also for idle. So set the idle as the default state here. I'm going to change each of the state name corresponding to the animation name, run, so it's clear. And I'm going to create a new float value, change its name to speed, and I'm going to make a transition from idle to run and back from run to idle. So for the idle to run transition, change the condition to speed and make sure it's greater than 0.1. And for running, change the condition also to speed, but the value is less than 0.1. Okay, so I'm going to choose our enemy here, go to the child object, and I'm going to use that newly created animator. it's called enemy. So we already assigned that. Okay, now we are going to need to create a FSM for our enemy. But I'm not going to create a new FSM. I'm going to copy our character FSM. So let us browse here. Let us check which one is the animation FSM. Okay, this is the animation FSM. I'm going to copy this component and then go to our enemy, and I'm going to paste component as new. So we have 3 component FSM component for our enemy. I'm going to reorder this up. So we have an enemy movement here, and we already have an enemy health, and this is the enemy animation. So I'm going to change its name to enemy animation. Let's go to our enemy animation. Enemy animation here. Now we have a lot of states already created because we are using the one from our character, but I'm going to remove all of this as of the moment, and I'm going to use only the falling and idle run. I don't think I'm gonna use the falling. I'm going just to delete this one and use idle run. So for the variables, for the mechanism character, I'm going to drag our enemy game object here, and let's change the name of the child object so it's clear, enemy mechanism. So if we go to our parent object, we can see that the game object of our mechanism character variable is enemy mechanism, so it should work. And then for I think this is okay, I'm going to change the get FSM variable from our enemy movement, and we have already created a speed animation, right? Walk speed. So I'm going to copy this variable, and we are going to create an exact variable under our animation variables here. So for this character velocity X, I'm going to change its name to walk speed, and then under state we are going to retrieve this variable, and this action actually will retrieve the walk speed from our enemy movement, and it will store right away to the variable with the same name here. And then I'm going to make sure that the value of our walk speed is always positive by changing make sure the variable is float absolute here by using float abs action. And then I'm going to change its animator float. I think the name is speed here, so we are going to use that name. So I'm going to type speed and the value to walk speed. Make sure every frame. And then I don't know what says property here. Oh, okay, so I'm going to remove this one. We don't need this. So I think this should work. Let's save the scene and let's try it again. As you can see, the character is moving, but it runs too slow. This is very easy to fix. Go to our animator, and I think our run animation for our character, at least it is let me check. Okay, the speed is 3, so I think we have to change also the enemy animation to 3. Okay, voila. As you can see, the enemy is moving nicely, and if we shoot the enemy a couple times, it will fall. So I think that will be all. Well, you can improve always with the enemy state here. You can create some sort of another state for idle, so at a certain random wait time here, you can go to idle state and then go back to our movement, and it will check the raycast again, so it will add a bit of variation to the movement. Maybe you can try experimenting. I think at this part you should be able already to improvise the state machine here. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial on how to create enemy, and in the next episode, namely probably part 9, I will try to explain how to export our created game here and deploy it to Android. So we are going to create a console for a touchscreen, and after that, how to export it to an Android device. Okay. Well, if you like the tutorial, please subscribe by clicking down here, subscribe button. I would appreciate it so much. And lastly, thanks for watching. See ya.